Welcome to another episode of Leon Live, and I'm joined today by Bren Walker, partner at Kierkegaard. Bren, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm so glad to be talking with you today and finally doing this. It's so exciting.
Me too. And it's so Bren serves on the board of directors also for Avixa. We had the great fortune of having dinner together in Barcelona, and the stories, the experience, Bren's got a deep history in musical curation as an artist, as a musician, and now she is a partner at Kierkegaard, one of the preeminent leading design firms out there. And tell the world a little bit about you. People know you, but maybe some of our people in our audience might not know who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a latecomer to the pro AV world, but my first AV job was running the audio systems for the Campus Hillel at Harvard. So, and I didn't even really think about it being my first AV job until much later. It was like, oh yeah, that was an AV job. I've had a three-part career. I spent a decade in music, working in recording as an A&R director, artist and repertoire for Virgin, A&M. Island Records was where I got started. I spent some time working with the crew in Minneapolis, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I ran operations for their label and had once you get plugged into Minneapolis, then you meet everybody. I had some interesting times with Prince and different other people from that scene. I spent 10 years working in Silicon Valley on some digital music startups, had a consulting business. First client was Napster. Watched that whole transformation happen, and that is really coming back to me in a lot of ways now. Seeing what's happening with AI.
Napster, hold on, pause. That's a new level. I remember Napster. You were there?
I was there, dude.
Okay,
we were trying. You know what? We were trying to get it licensed. That's what we were trying.
That was the whole idea: is no license.
Well, to get it licensed between the labels and Napster.
Yeah,
right. So that Napster
Eminem
was legal.
Remember Eminem was like, yeah.
And the labels were not. They just weren't. They were convinced they were going to shut it all down. I had a record. When I left Virgin Records, man. The president of the label, after I downloaded a Bowie track from Internet Relay Chat and put it on a little tiny MP3 player, he looked at me and he said, "You're a geek. Nobody's ever going to do that." And in 3 years, he was out of the business and working for a nonprofit in Palm Desert. So that's a cautionary tale, folks, about what's coming with AI in our design work.
Yes.
I got to our world, the AV world, through Kierkegaard, which is known as an acoustics firm. And I wanted to study acoustics, that intersection of music, architecture, design, physics. And I realized once I was there, I'm an AV person. Like, I've been an AV person. I know recording studios, I know venues, I know live sound, and it just sort of all started to naturally happen once I said I can do this and started working on my first project, which, by the way, the first project started in 2013, still working on it now.
What? It's like, it's not done, or is it just what happened?
It's for a lot of civic county projects. It's a project for Miami-Dade County.
Yeah.
We started with the process in 2013, and they are now getting to the point where we're actually starting to build some of it. So it's just what happens with projects that depend on public funding. Yeah. And it impacts the way you have to think about things as a designer when you have these long schedules, right?
Yeah, you're talking about bonds. You're talking about all kinds of investment. That three-phase career evolution is so interesting. And I recently attended a graduation party for someone, and they was like, they didn't really ask my advice, but I was going to give it to them anyway. And I said, listen, whatever you think you're doing, you're not going to be doing.
So true.
I said, just be prepared, be Renaissance ready, and you have to just sort of, you got to love art, you got to love music, you got to love style and design, and you got to understand, some basic, aspects of, how government functions, how projects get done. You got to be very well-rounded,
Yeah. And, we last century, our education, everything about how we entered the workforce was about specialization, right? And having specialized knowledge. Now you're better off if you have something you specialize in and you can be a subject matter expert in that, but you need to be a generalist now. And more, we're going to rely on machine learning to give us specialized knowledge in certain areas that we don't have. And
Yeah.
our primary skill is going to be judgment and insight about what to use from that knowledge.
Judgment and insight. You're describing how I think about my interaction with ChatGPT now and other
Mm,
AI tools. Is I start with a question, I refine my question, or I start with my design, and it evolves my design. Uh,
mhm,
it's an exciting time. What I want to explore today with you is the state of design.
sure.
And what you're seeing in these projects, and you've teed it up nicely, I think, by kicking off with a discussion around AI is a game changer. AI is changing how designers engage. How are you looking at that AI revolution in more detail? What is it doing at Kierkegaard?
It is streamlining process. And it is separating the things that are um, sort of logical, quantifiable, things that are quote unquote the hard science part of what we do. Those things a machine learner can do for me, right? And so over time, it is learning to get better and better at what a technical design looks like in terms of how we design projects,
Yeah,
right? That frees me up to focus on concept, to focus on how I communicate it to the client, to focus on what the user experience is, and actually reframing AV systems not around the pieces of equipment or the software that run them, but the people who use them and how they need to work for those people.
yeah,
The user experience, our field, we've gotten into UI. Some of us have gotten
yeah,
sophisticated at UI. A lot of people are still doing pretty basic UI. But all of that now is going to be more and more important because our value is going to be in those softer things. It's not going to be in the harder quantifiable aspects of it, because those are going to be democratized, right?
yeah,
Over time, any kind of learning that you can quantify in that way that is not driven by emotional intelligence, it's going to be a level playing field for everybody,
yeah.
right? Everybody will have access to that,
How
right?
well versed is your client in that? Does your client have a baseline understanding of all of those elements in their projects and initiatives, or do you find yourself you're educating, you're guiding, you're like, hey, we're going to use a more comprehensive approach when we're engaging this?
The clients aren't there yet, right? They're not there yet because it's just not. They're getting there in other aspects of their work, right? But they're not there in terms of what we do, because they don't really understand the totality of what AV is now, right? That it's not just, oh, we're picking a console, we're picking some loudspeakers, we're going to have a projector and a screen. The whole concept of what runs it and the infrastructure behind it, software from a software basis, is completely unknown to most of our clients,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There are those who have, they've gotten into Dante or they've gotten into networked video. Then we have some professional clients who they're all the way there. They're doing unmanned broadcast studios. They already get it because they
yeah,
are natively in AV.
yeah.
But for the ones who aren't, it's an education process.
Mm,
And
mhm,
I'll tell you a great example. I was talking with the design team members about a 1,200 seat hall that we're working on. And there were members on the team who worked on the renovation of Geffen Hall in New York.
mm,
And they were talking about how we were talking about, large LED walls and this sticking point that people have about how am I going to have enough content to run on those walls? I've got to have somebody putting it together and editing. It has to be high quality and all of this. And they were saying, oh, well, Lincoln Center has a multi-million-dollar budget for that. And I was like, they won't have it for very long because frankly, an AI curator is going to do a better job,
Yeah.
because it's not going to be based on their own sort of aesthetic opinion. It's going to be based on, here are the parameters for what are the videos that I want to show.
Yeah.
So now clients who would not consider a large wall because they felt like they didn't have the staff or the resources to keep the content fresh will be able to automate having that content be fresh.
Yeah. That's the challenge. Like, it's the freshness of content. And it was such a time consuming process before.
Hmm.
And that's a good example of, it's not about, losing the creativity associated with the creation of the content and the curation of the content. It's just about making it even more accessible, and
Yeah.
making it, putting it in the hands of the customer to do the part that as technologists we will never do. Right.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And recognizing, as you mentioned earlier, the value of the tool of machine learning and AI for iteration, right? If it speeds up our iteration, I can explore more and different concepts. And then it can help me present those different concepts to the client. So, and from an iterative basis, it is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that, anybody who's concerned about it for their job is just looking at it from the wrong position,
Yeah.
right? Instead of thinking of it as something that can do what I do,
Oh yeah.
think about how it can save you from doing the things you used to do so
Yeah.
that you can do new things that only you can do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It,
Yeah.
it will be years before I can have an agent attend a meeting
Yeah.
and for that agent be able to read the fact that the head of the music department is devastated because the university architect just wiped out his recording equipment budget, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, AI
Yeah.
is not going to pick that up yet. It's up to me to pick that up
Yeah.
and to find a way to bring some reconciliation and to make somebody feel better about how that situation's changed for them.
How it's changed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
All right. I'm going to shift gears on a closely related topic, to dive in a little further. We're going to do this again. And I want to bring back some people that we can maybe have a chat with and just contrapose and share.
sure.
But here, I want to explore. We talk a lot about aesthetic, here
Mm,
at Leon. We're very intrigued with the notion of culture and art and the intersection of personalization in spaces. As a designer and an architect, and as a cultural anthropologist, maybe for lack of a better term, how are you seeing this move into boardrooms and large spaces? Some of the auditorium work or the large performance venues. How is this happening now? What people have to be aware of with regards to the trends?
well, I think we don't do a lot of boardrooms, right?
Yeah.
So I'll leave that to the people who do that stuff every day. When we do them, it's a part of. I'm doing a PAC. It's got two conference rooms, so I'll say up front that that's not our particular wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse is venues for performance, and the things that I think people need to one of the biggest things I think they need to be aware of is both the opportunity and the risk of using AI relative to your audience,
Mm,
right? For any number of things that you may apply to your audience.
mm,
In our academic projects, one of the things that I'm excited about and been talking with certain schools about is how to use sensors and different technology to put some value to art, right? So if we can say
I
that
like that.
we've got
Yeah.
an audience that have come into this theater, they're going to see a straight play.
Yeah.
We've asked them to opt in to having their biometrics measured during the course of the play.
Wow.
We marry that information with different things that have happened in the play, responses that we pick up from audio,
Wow.
and we attempt to show the value that that experience provides. Does it bring someone's blood pressure down? If so, for how long? Does it bring their heart rate down?
Wow.
Does it elevate their mood? How long does it elevate their mood? Does this last for a day, a night, a week? So that, art, people who do art are often the least, um, even though they have so much engagement with the public and they're generally gregarious. can be gregarious or outgoing people, they are the worst at showing what their value is and then getting paid for that value, right? Like they're so generous in their way of being that they don't always think about how they get the appropriate compensation assigned to what they're offering to society.
Yeah.
So for me, this is a huge opportunity, and it's a way for us to not put them on the line of trying to figure it out mechanically, but give it to them from, okay, we just analyzed your show, and we found that, 40% of the participants reported having a better night's sleep. 40%, 80% reported that when they saw the doctor the next time, their heart rate was lower, their blood pressure was lower. These things that will say, this is the value that art provides. Here's why we should give it more money.
Yeah.
And we're obviously vested in seeing it have more money, because then it means better equipment, better venues, better experiences for everyone.
Destination. We have several performance venues here in Detroit. Some of them, legendary. The Fisher Building is a Kahn architected building back in the 1920s. So I think it came online in 1927. Tragically, sometime in the 70s, there was a facade placed around the theater itself that hid the entire, theater. Like it's
wow,
Deco style treatment. So it's a great thing to go search sometime. As you look at the Fisher Theater Detroit, you look at it in 1927 with this original Deco treatments and style. You'd almost not even pay attention to the show, and it's not to take away from the show. It's that it was all hidden in a different style of theater. And then you go to the Fox, or you go to some of these other places where it's legendary. It's like designed, it's iconic, it's restorative, and all those things. This has been great, Bren. I've loved having you today. We're gonna
I can't believe it's over already. We barely scratched the surface. You just started talking about theater interiors, man. I could spend 40 minutes just talking about that from an acoustic perspective.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do a 40-minute on it, and we're gonna absolutely go there. So you're gonna be at InfoComm next week.
Yes.
Hopefully, are you gonna be doing any sessions and stuff that you want to plug here?
Yes, I'm doing a session on Tuesday afternoon called Fear of a Bot Planet, which is about the AI designer and how to compete with the AI designer. And then on Thursday, I'm doing a panel discussion about AI for integrators. I'll be around the conference at the Avixa receptions. Would love to meet and talk to people and share what I'm working on. And I'll just you'll know me. You'll know me on the floor because I always wear these African prints, and I'll be wearing them through the whole show. And I'm going to keep wearing them until we have InfoComm Africa, because I feel like we've got the last continent we need to conquer is the continent that has the most burgeoning film industry going and all these other things happening. So if you see a curly hair and an African print, that's me. Come say hi.
Okay, so two things. You and I get to hang out on Tuesday night, I think, at the Sphere together. So we'll see you there. And then come visit us at Leon. And then we're going to get a picture, and we're going to promote that story as well. And then we're going to do some follow up here. I can't wait to spend some more time with you and talk more. So
part two on design, Jeff.
Part two.
Let's do 5 or 6 of these. Really.
Awesome. Done.
Because I just feel so strongly that our industry now, we are at a critical point where if we change the way that we think about design and we start presenting ourselves differently, we have an opportunity to expand and to start taking some stuff from some other people in terms of their market share. And I love that because I love competing. So
I love it. All right, hang with me for just a second. And
all right.
Let your little light shine. Let your little light shine for the world.